session is I'm worried about my infant who has a fever. What should I do?
So thank you so much for that question. You know, the baby will develop and grow beyond the first month of life, and now you have that infant. An infant is regarded as a baby from age 0 month of life to 1 year.
Wow.
So fever is a good thing. I know.
Wow. People were like, oh, really?
It's a good thing,
Okay.
Scientifically speaking, medically speaking, because when parents come panicking with a fever, they will just see that the medical personnel is relaxed about it.
Wow.
We're relaxed about it because
So sorry to keep it. That's why some people say, all these medical people are just wicked. I brought my child, but I just, the attitude, they are just calm. Oh,
so
I see.
It's not that we're nonchalant about your kid. It's because we're actually, we feel reassured that you have a normal child. So fever is a good thing. It's a response of the immune system to, to fight something that's not meant to be there, which typically is an infection. Also, fever could happen if a kid is dehydrated. So it's not just about infection. So watch out, especially in this summertime here in Ontario. It is possible when the temperature really peaks, for a kid to have a temperature. So it does not necessarily mean it's from an infection. But it's common response to an infection, and it is a display of a kid's immune system, working right.
Try to fight back.
That's right. So on the flip side, children that have a blood disorder called leukemia, they rarely have fever.
Wow.
So because the immune defense is not the best, so it does not typically mount that response that you would want. Like I said most, because there is a rule of no never in medicine. Wow. So there's always that possibility of a chance finding. So I want that mom to be rest assured fever is a good thing. But that doesn't mean that it's not uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable, and that's why we still treat it. But before you treat it, it's always best to find the reason for the fever. So, because if you just decide to self-medicate or do your own thing for your own child, you're just giving paracetamol right off the bat without finding out what is causing the fever, you're not really doing the child, the best good. You're not really giving the best to the child. We're not trying to tell you to drop some money by coming to check your child. That's not the real reason that I'm saying this.
But self-medication is not good.
You should exactly. You should come to your doctor with your child, to find out why is the child having a fever. And of course, you can give the initial remedy, which might be to get the child stripped down, get him in an inherited environment, maybe do a little bit of tepid sponging. We all know tepid sponging back home. It means you dip your towel in a lukewarm water and you mop down the kid, and some people will also have some fans around the kid. So all these are temporary measures that you can even use before you move on to the medication measure. And you must document a fever. So don't just say I used my hand to check. It's ideal and it's helpful to have a fever documented. So always a good idea for parents to have a thermometer. There are lots of thermometers around the place these days. For a thermometer, especially if you buy the very good ones, like made by a company called BRAUNN. I'm not trying to sell any product, but those are reliable, because there are some unreliable thermometers.
Maybe you can just buy from, I don't want to mention countries, just buy online.
So if you're buying, make sure you're buying a good brand. Otherwise, you might be having some false alarms. you know.
Yeah.
So, which you don't want for your child. You don't want to raise a false alarm. And where you check the temperature, you should document. So if it's under the tongue, you want to document it so that when you're reporting to the doctor, you will tell the doctor, oh, I checked it under the tongue, it was this particular number. I checked it under the armpit, it was this particular number. I checked it on the forehead, it was with this kind of thermometer, it was this. I checked it in the ears, and it was this particular number. So all those numbers mean some things to us. You know, I'm not going to give it all away here. And, you know, so we like you to put it in perspective for us. And temperatures beyond 38 degrees for babies age 1 month to 3 months is a true fever. Wow. So babies up to age 3 months, they have a higher threshold actually to contain fever compared to the older ones beyond 3 months. So those beyond 3 months, fever for them is beyond 37.5. So the threshold is even lower as the child grows. But normal temperature, you know, it's always good to know the normal before you would appreciate the abnormal. Normal temperature is between 36.5 to 37.5 degrees Celsius. You know, all my life I've only used the System Internationale unit, which is the SI unit. So apologies for my Fahrenheit colleagues, you know, and Fahrenheit friends. Yeah, I don't have those Fahrenheit numbers. So then, what do you see in a child, you know, even as a parent, as a caregiver, when they have a fever? Some people would notice that their hands are blue. Wow. Especially when they're very tiny, when they're babies.
And within the ages of
from like 1 month, anybody can have a fever, right? Okay. Even from zero, zero, the first day of life, you can have a fever. Wow. And that's why you must find out why, right? So you might find that the hands are blue, the lips are blue in a way, that the feet are blue. Again, it's a body's way of redistributing temperature to the most important places. You know, so those blue places are mostly going to be cold. It doesn't mean that the child is in trouble like that per se. It's a way of the body trying to regulate temperature to the most important areas, which are your brain. So if you feel the forehead, or if you do, you know, that place might feel warm. If you feel the chest, it might feel warm. If you feel the belly area, it might feel warm, because important organs are located in those places, and those places must be maintained by a particular temperature.
Okay, sorry, ma. To chip in this question, so those blue areas means that the blood
was shunted.
Was
shunted from those areas to the most vital parts that must be preserved. So that's why you know, most parents will panic when they see that. Fine, you might not see those color changes in the color of my skin, but you might feel the coldness in those same areas.
So that is a clinical sign, and we use that.
Correct. It's
still medical doctor. That's a clinical sign.
It's still, you know, it's still accompanying the fever as an entity, but it still does not tell you the cause of the fever. So you're still not going to sit at home. You're still going to get that baby checked, you know, by a doctor. So, like I prefaced, it could be from dehydration. It could be from infection. You know, those are commonest. So talk about infections being the most common cause of fever. If it was a brain infection, those are serious issues. Wow. Yes, very serious. If it was a skin infection, which people can easily overlook,
contacts through, you know, dirty hands and stuff.
So yeah, especially on our skin, you don't see the redness that's typical on a white skin, but you might have a skin infection causing a fever. So you see, I'm just trying to let you understand why you should get your kid checked by a doctor. If it's an ear infection, it's only a doctor that would be able to find that out for you. And it's also important to check with a doctor, because there will be records and patterns of why this child suffers with fevers, because there may be a final solution. Take, for example, if the reason for that kid's fever is always an ear infection, then maybe at some point the kid would end up with an ear, nose, and throat specialist that will fix the baseline issue. So I'm just letting us understand why we shouldn't just mask all fevers with paracetamol, with Tylenol, unless we find the source. But of course, we can remove the initial discomfort by just giving maybe the one dose while we go find our doctor.
Wow, thank you so much.
Yes, I hope I've been able to answer.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. We're rounding up this section. I hope you guys have gained a lot of tips, a lot of information regarding mother and the baby, the clinical signs, how you can identify if your baby is having issue at birth to age 3, to age 4 months, 3 months. Thank you so much, Mommy, once again for having you.
This opportunity.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Thank you so much, man. This is where we'll leave it for now. You'll see some other time.